Welcome everybody to the Political Insider. We have a special guest today. Tim Young, a conservative comedian, has joined us, and we're here to talk about, well, all the wackiness that has transpired over this past week and about Tim's new book. Welcome, Tim.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Good. Okay, great. So you have this new book out, I Hate Democrats and I Hate Republicans. I think that's a sentiment pretty much shared not just by our audience, but by a great swaths of the American people. So what's the premise of the book? I know you just tweeted out about it like 20 minutes ago, saying that, this is why Trump's going to win in 2020. It's because people despise both parties. Now, why do you think that? Is that the whole topic of the book?
That's pretty much it. I mean, well, I go through all of the failings of both Republicans and Democrats in the book, and there are a lot, and there are different things that both parties have completely failed. I think the main thing that both parties have ignored is that people don't think the way that people do in the bubble. You know, we always hear about the swamp that's supposed to be cleared. I don't know if it's necessarily been cleared yet or not, but because there are a lot of people around in this town. I'm in D.C. right now that I don't think should be here anymore, and I thought their tenure was up when Trump got elected. But that's a whole other conversation. You know, both parties have just not listened to the American people a lot, and it seems like they're a little outdated in different ways.
Okay, so let's tackle one first. Republicans. What's the biggest problem with Republicans? I know you support the president. The president's a Republican. He's the de facto head of the party. But it would seem like most Republicans, you know, a lot of the guys that have been in Washington for a while aren't completely on board with him. Some are even trying to thwart him too, such as, you know, senators such as Ben Sasse, that kind of type of Republican. Some of them want to stop him in a lot of ways. What's your take on the Republican Party? What's the problem with it?
Well, I'm always issue by issue, by the way, and that's one of the things I talk about in the book is like, look, I think that Trump has done good stuff. I think he's screwed up too, and I think people need to be honest about that. They need to be honest about every one of their leaders instead of just going all in on someone saying, hey, look, you know, nobody's perfect and there are things that people have done. But I think Republicans in general have two problems. One is young people. They've done literally nothing to help out young people. They've done nothing for outreach to young people. And it really, even though there are organizations out there that are making lots of money saying that they're doing stuff for young people, they're just barking the same talking points at young people and going nowhere. And so Republicans have dropped a ball there. And they also always drop a ball with minority groups, which is really odd to me because when you take a look at family values, when you take a look at people who go just to church and are religious and believe conservative social issues, it's minority groups. White people are the ones that are the progressive ones. And so conservatives should be, and Republicans should be aligned with minority groups more often than not, but they always fall to this Republicans are automatically racist. Democrats have been calling Republicans racist for years, and they're not, but there are bad actors, again, on both sides. Democrats have set up, and I kind of talk about this in the book, the exclamation points, so that when someone says something stupid on the Republican side, all Republicans are stupid and racist and whatever. And it's so it's a lopsided thing, and Republicans just really haven't been able to come back on it.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of truth in that. What do you think about Trump himself, though? Because I think we had a few weeks ago we had on Kristen Tate, and we were talking about millennial support of the president and how, you know, look, yes, there is a stereotype out there, a stereotype that's usually more fact than fiction, that Republican Party is very stodgy and old and out of the times. But Trump, I mean, he's just this like iconoclast, and he has this irreverence to him, which I think is kind of appealing to millennials sometimes. I'm thinking of like the college guys that go out and they have like affirmative action bake sales and stuff like that. They're just trying to trigger other people. So you have that going for you. Trump, and on the social thing you're mentioning, Trump rarely even gets into social issues, hardly at all. I remember right when he was elected, he was asked about gay marriage on 60 Minutes, and he said, well, it's like settled law, I don't care, basically. So
he also ran a stage with a rainbow flag. I mean, he has no problems with social issues.
Right. So you think that Trump's a little different from the typical Republican mold, where it's like, you know, they're just kind of have a tin ear for millennials, and they care too much about social issues, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, well, Trump is different from the regular Republican Party in just his communication style. I mean, he literally stomped right past the deep bench that Republicans had in 2016. And everybody kind of has forgotten about that because it's day-to-day issues now, and everything is the worst thing that's ever happened or the best thing that's ever happened. There's nothing in between. But in 2016, he went by probably the deepest bench of Republican candidates for president that we've ever had. And it's literally just his communication style and his ability to reach normal human beings with the way that he talks and his social media, and he just doesn't care what people think. He's an authentic person, and that authenticity is what carries him through. And that's what will get people to vote for him again in 2020, when opposition again will come at him with this traditional swamp-style, stodgy political angle, and he's going to mouth off, and people are going to love it again, and people are going to turn out to vote.
Yeah, I think people underestimate what he's going to do in 2020. I mean, there's a lot of energy on the Democrat side right now. You know, every poll shows that they're going to have this blue wave coming in the midterms, there's a lot of energy on that side. But I think they're going to have a hard time in 2020. Let's get to the Democrats. Now, you laid out why Republicans are bad. Why are Democrats bad? If you can give us a unique take on that, because I think our audience already realizes Democrats are awful and the devil's party, really. I want, what's your unique take? What exactly is wrong with Democrats?
It's the hyperbole, and I actually just wrote an op-ed in the USA Today yesterday about this, how everything is the worst thing that has ever happened.
Right.
And so when you say everything is the worst thing that's ever happened, and I don't want to give Democrats any strategy here. One of my very good Democratic consultants reached out to me yesterday and said that he wished that Democrats would listen to me in my op-ed, because I say when you say everything is terrible, it's the boy who cried wolf, and when Trump actually makes a mistake, it gets blown off. Like there's no way to deny that his press conference with Vladimir Putin was a mess, and it was a total mess. It was probably the biggest blunder in all of his foreign policy, which has been pretty good, but it was completely overlooked as if it was nothing, because every day we hear Trump is Hitler, Trump is a Nazi, fascism is back, he's going to put people in concentration camps again. It's always something crazy, and so Democrats don't know how to get their messaging together, and on top of that, they have no clear leader. And they have no strategy for their party. We're watching these Democratic Socialists come up, and they're going to divide the party again in 2020, by the way. This is, how Jill Stein took some of the vote. There's going to be somebody who's a Democratic Socialist who is going to divide the Democratic Party, probably take 20% of them with him or her, and let Trump walk right into the White House again. They're a mess. They are the mess that everyone said Republicans were.
Yeah, okay. I haven't heard that argument yet. That makes sense, though. Democrat socialists kind of waltz like a Jill Stein. Would it be the Green Party? Would it be like that kind of nominee that would just come in and steal a bunch of votes?
I got to tell you, so when I went to the DNC last year, I only went to the DNC. I didn't get funded to go to the RNC because people wanted me to troll it. So I went to all the Democratic Socialist stuff. Right. And they are growing in numbers. Number one, they're all anti-Semitic, by the way. If you say Zionist is the other way to say that you hate Jewish people, but it's disgusting when you hear that term pulled out. But they would have these huge rallies and talk about how they hated Zionists, how everything was the worst, and how the Democratic Party wasn't solving it. And there were tons of people turning out to these things. It wasn't like a little event. And you had Bernie Sanders' entire family was at one of the events that I went to, and so there's something going on there, and you're going to see a chunk of the Democratic Party fall off, especially when you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you've got Gillum in Florida, you've got these guys going with socialist ideas, and they're going to break from the base, where Democrats need that wider net or the wider tent to try to catch more people.
You don't think Democrats will be smart? Well, you think Democrats will be smart enough to actually look? The party's changing. Maybe we should embrace someone with these kind of ideas that has this kind of support. They screwed Bernie Sanders last go around, right? To give it to Hillary. You think they're going to do that same thing again, or you think they're going to try and, open it up a little bit to show that they're supportive of that side of the party, or do you think they're just going to do the same thing again and ram Joe Biden through, or whoever establishment Democrat?
They're going to ram somebody through, and they're not going to pick a good vice president either. You've got Kamala Harris, you've got Cory Booker, who just lied in the Kavanaugh hearings about how he was going to release confidential documents. So who knows what they're willing to do on that end. Then you've got Joe Biden. It does seem like Joe Biden's going to run, because we had Jill Biden was on Fox News this morning talking about the troops walking across America. That's not done without thinking about running for office in 2020. By the way, none of that stuff is done PR-wise without thinking about that future run.
Of course,
but. You're going to have a weird push through again with super delegates, and they're going to ignore the Democratic Socialists, and those guys they're better at grassroots, and they're better activists than the Democratic Party traditionally has been, and their numbers are growing, and it's going to divide the party and the vote again.
Well, it'll be fun to see if it happens. I know there's a big fight brewing within the party of kind of that Civil War style going on that was going on with the Republicans about, what, I guess 8 years now, when the Tea Party rose up and you had the big fights in 2010 from the primaries, that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see. I imagine if that is what's going to happen, you're going to have a huge freak out on the other side. They're going to probably revolt. So yeah, let's get to the next thing. Democrat hyperbole. Democrats are going insane. The rhetoric they're using. I mean, this week we've seen it in spades at the Kavanaugh hearing. Like you just said, Kamala Harris going insane. Cory Booker having his Spartacus moment, which wasn't even he didn't even have it really. He leaked classified documents, but they were already unclassified. But he insisted they were classified. And it's just like this weird thing going on, and he's going on CNN and say, I'm so great, I'm so wonderful, look how much of a rebel I am. And it's like, dude, you didn't even do anything.
Yeah, no, it's so weird to me because they're both, jockeying for a position to be the 2020 nominee. By the way, Kamala Harris is extraordinarily boring. Like I've never
yes.
Nobody says that. I don't know if you're allowed to say that, but like I saw her on like Ellen because I watch all the terrible news clips and things a few months ago when they started to tease her 2020 run.
Right.
And she was so dull. Like when you had Barack Obama come out, like he was a cool, smooth guy.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have it. Cory Booker also doesn't have it. He's just like he's kind of a goof. Like, and I hate to say that, but like when you're pulling these stunts off. And apparently he knew ahead of time now, we found out, that stuff was already declassified when he said it was classified.
Right.
Like, that's a goof move. Like, why would you try to do that and think with the way that social media operates and how journalism works nowadays that wouldn't get exposed?
Well, it doesn't even make any sense because the whole thing he was hinting at, look, I have these emails about racial discrimination that are, that they won't let me release, and they're damning for Kavanaugh. When they come out and it's like Kavanaugh was against racial discrimination of potential terrorists after 9/11, which
9/11, yeah.
It's
why? Like that doesn't make any he was like the nicest of the right-leaning people after 9/11. Like so many people were like lock everybody up. Anybody who's a certain color, put them somewhere because we're afraid of them.
Right.
Kavanaugh was like, no, let's be reasonable. We shouldn't racially profile. Kavanaugh is the epitome of like milk toast.
He's vanilla.
White guy. Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's nothing on this guy, and God bless him for sitting there for hours on end with his mouth shut, showing no emotion while he's getting berated for nothing. Right.
Yeah. I mean, going through that ringer itself I think is qualifying for the Supreme Court or any kind of federal office. I mean, it's a sideshow. I mean, you got these guys fighting their own little petty battles up there against each other, and they're supposed to be asking him, actual questions, but it's all a show because Democrats aren't going to vote for him at all. They said going in, we're never going to vote for him. So, and then they try to pepper him with all these gotcha questions that aren't even gotcha questions. He just answers them forthrightly and makes them look like stooges.
And when he doesn't want to answer, he goes on these long legal rants that like sound logical, but if you actually realize what he's saying, he's just completely avoided the question and like baffled the senator who asked him the question.
Yeah, it's stupid to watch. But yeah, I mean, look, you have the jockeying going on right now for 2020, right? Kamala Harris is probably going to run. Cory Booker's probably going to run. And you have, what's his name? The lawyer, Stormy Daniels' lawyer, who's also tweeting out, like slamming them at the same time because he's hinting at running. You think any of these guys, who do you think is going to come out of this thing looking better? You think any of them look good for 2020?
If Biden doesn't run, it's going to be really interesting. I know Bernie is definitely in as well.
Right.
I actually dated one of his consultants unofficially for a little while, and she kind of spilled the beans. Also, I hate to say it, but she hasn't said no yet. Hillary Clinton is still
oh my God. God.
You don't pull stunts like showing up with Bill like the common people on a plane a couple of months ago and stay relevant in public activities. I mean, she and he were at Aretha Franklin's funeral and she didn't speak. That was pretty strategic. She's out there. I don't think they're done yet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Bill was there. I remember Bill at the funeral giving googly eyes to Ariana Grande. Everyone saw that, and that became an instant meme, which is hilarious. But yeah,
I thought that. You know that was me, right?
Yeah, it's he's, I don't know, after the election, the whole Me Too thing explodes, right? And then people like Kirsten Gillibrand throw Bill Clinton under the bus and say, yeah, maybe he should have been impeached. Maybe, we should kick him out of the party or whatever she said. Basically, damning him and saying he was awful for what he did. You really think Hillary can actually make that side of the Democrat Party seems to have dropped Bill Clinton. They say, we don't like him anymore. He's a huge pervert. The thing that the right has been saying for 20, 30 years, this guy's a predator who goes after young, vulnerable women, and now some of the Democrats, the hard left ones, have come around to that. You really think Hillary's going to try and make a go with her husband and all that baggage they're carrying?
I like, if I was a betting man, I'd say I'd put $20 down on it. So I also have a couple of connections over on that side. I'm friendly with everybody, by the way. Like I respect everyone who's in politics. I know I disagree very sharply with some people, but I stay friendly with people. And my connections on that side say the engine has been they kept it running, and she's still responding to fan mail. Yeah, there's a lot that's going on over there. Now, whether or not in the end they convince her, hey, maybe step down, maybe not do it, is another question. But I think we're going to see it. And you saw Bill come out, and I think he had a book a few months ago, and he got slammed in a couple of interviews about his behavior in the past.
Right. The fiction book, right.
They are still trying to clear him out of the way. These are very strategic moves to see if they can keep her relevant and keep her running.
So you like trial balloons, right? They're like, we put Bill Clinton in front of with what's his name, William Patterson or James Patterson, whoever the fiction writer is that he wrote the book with. We'll put him out there for something real innocent and see what happens. And then they immediately ask about Lewinsky and Me Too, and he gets all flustered. And yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I think our side would love it if Hillary ran again. I think it'd be hilarious. I mean, it got whomped before, whomped again. It will be real easy. But I think the other side would be just like terrified of the prospects. Why would you run another loser again? A third-time loser.
Well, you have to remember they didn't think she was a loser, and they've convinced themselves that she wasn't a loser. It was all Russian collusion, and there were other hands involved in this. They have more tinfoil hats on their side than we do on our side right now, and so it's an interesting place to be, and what people at the top believe or not. So it's going to be a weird field, and I believe Elizabeth Warren already said she's not going to run in 2020, but that doesn't mean she's going to be a vice president.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I don't even believe that she won't even run. I mean, I think she could still change her mind. I don't think anyone's going to hold it against her. They're not going to say, well, you said you wouldn't run, and then she runs anyway because she'll say something, I'm running to save the country from Nazi Trump or whatever. She'll make up some excuse, and the media will forgive her because they love her.
It's my duty to run. It's my duty to do this. Yeah. I wasn't going to do it, but here I am. It's sort of like the encore performance at the end of a concert. The concert was over, but since you clapped up, I'm coming back out.
I'm coming back out for my greatest hit that I already played 3 times. So, okay. And one more. Joe Biden. You mentioned Biden might run. Any connections on that side? Anything you know about like Biden jumping in?
He's the one I don't know anything about. Okay. It's going to come down to age, I think, with him. He's looking kind of old. And, I mean, not that Trump isn't old, but he's looking kind of old. I think he was the one guy that could have beat Trump on the Democratic side last time and was kicking himself for not running. Or maybe having to hand it off to Hillary because it was quote-unquote her time. But, if he runs, it'll be interesting. I still think Trump stomps him because Trump's policies overall have done more for the silent majority and the folks in flyover country than any recent president that I can remember.
Okay, cool. Let's get to the topic. Really want to talk about that. Everyone's talking about that. I mean, you just said you're in D.C., and basically anywhere you are in the country, you can hear all the chattering from Washington, D.C. about this anonymous op-ed written in the New York Times by a purported senior official is what they're being called. But who the hell knows what that even means? Anyway, the New York Times op-ed lambasting Trump, saying that we work for him and he's done some good stuff, but we kind of try and like undermine him a lot and that kind of thing. So every journalist, every Twitter user in D.C. is going insane over this, and they're trying to figure out who the person is. Only a select few people at the New York Times know, but they're not giving it up. What's your whole take on this thing? It's so weird and it's so unprecedented. So what is your take on it?
So I wrote an op-ed in USA Today. I was actually asked to write an op-ed in USA Today about it because I didn't even bother to read the article. I'm just so tired of it at this point. Yeah. There's a Trump, never Trump news cycle is what we could call it. And it goes Russian collusion, he hates women, he's racist, he's crazy. And it's those 4 topics over and over again with different delivery mechanisms. And it was hard. I couldn't write this, but like, look, I go to this Thai place in Northern Virginia called Thai Herbs. There's a plug for them. I don't get paid by them. But they have the best peanut sauce. And I don't care what the peanut sauce is. I just like eating the peanut sauce. Doesn't matter what the delivery mechanism is. And right now, those 4 stories are like delicious and just fan fiction for the left, and they love eating it up and reacting and going crazy about it. It doesn't matter what the delivery mechanism is. They just mix it up a little bit to make it seem different. And this was just the old 25th Amendment, Trump is crazy, needs to be removed angle one more time, rehashed for the once a month, but now it's an anonymous person. And there's 1,200 senior administration officials this could have been. It could be literally anybody. I actually probably think it's more of like a summer intern or something, or maybe the person doesn't exist, or maybe it's a rehashed story from multiple officials before that they were able to piece together. Like, there's just, I don't buy it. It's so dumb, and it's the same thing over and over again. Give me something, or give the American people something that they can actually digest and that could actually criticize Trump, because Trump is crazy because he's mouthy, is stupid, and contrary to why he was elected. He got elected, and people believe in him because he's mouthy.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is 6 on the op-ed, and by the time this thing broadcasts, we might know over the weekend if it comes out who actually wrote it. But I'm just shocked right now they haven't figured it out right yet. I mean, it's been a few days. It's been over 24 hours, almost 48 hours, and they haven't even figured out who wrote this thing yet. I thought for sure, our beautiful August mandarins on the Twitter sphere and the journalists would have this nailed by now, but they all seem to be clueless. They all hint at who it might be, but no one seems to know. So do you think we're going to find out anytime soon? Do you think it'll remain anonymous?
I think it'll remain anonymous. There are some inklings I've had from my people of where it's coming from, and they hinted towards Pence's office, actually, because of that reuse of whatever the word was.
Lodestar, yes.
Lodestar. And there's been a long-running thing where Pence wants to separate himself a little bit to get himself ready for a presidential run or whatever may happen. But that's I don't think we're going to find out who it is. It's so stupid. And again, this is going to be out of the news cycle. Next week, this will be out of the news cycle. No one will remember any of it. We'll be back to some new porn star or some other at that point.
Well, it is NFL opening weekend, so I'm sure there'll be something that happens on Sunday, and then
so the story's the racism story. Then it's going to be Trump is racist.
Yeah,
that's because that's what ties in with that. And by the way, this whole Kaepernick Nike deal, I think, has been done to make the NFL look bad. I don't know if Nike's been up for a deal with the NFL or if they're working with them, but it seems like a really good troll job to get people and remind people to boycott the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, they did suffer big ticket sales. They suffered in ticket sales last season, so it'll be another kind of raucous thing going on, even though I think they try to incorporate some rule again to fine people who protest, but I think the union fought back against it, and I'm not even sure if it's still in effect right now. But yeah, it'll be another interesting NFL season. And you know what, if they want to do that, look, it gets the conservative base really excited, and this is going into the midterm elections, so if they really want to do that and they want to play that game, go ahead. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, it turns people out. That's what they don't understand. The left doesn't understand that these things that they think are trolling and getting one up on the right is only encouraging the right's voters and supporters to show up at the polls.
Right. And I just saw a story we ran yesterday on the Political Insider about how Obama is going to start going out there and campaigning for certain Democrat officials. And it's like, man, you really want to piss off the right and get them out to the polls? You bring out Obama, you're going to do that. So, hey, good luck, former president. If you want to do that, that's great. If you want to campaign for your friends, cool, but might backfire a little bit. So we'll see what happens.
At the very end of the day, Donald Trump's election was a referendum vote on Barack Obama's 8 years in office. And so, that's the public saying, we didn't want that. We want something new. So him going back out there literally does remind everybody, we don't like this guy. We like the new guy.
Right. So, hey, if Democrats want to shoot themselves in the foot, that's their own prerogative. So, more power to them. All right, well, thank you again for joining us, Tim. Thanks for sharing us more information about your book and all the current events going on. It's been a crazy week. I'm sure next week will be just as crazy. That seems to be how the whole Trump roller coaster is, especially with the media freaking out all the time. So Thanks for joining us. The book is I Hate Democrats, I Hate Republicans. Remind me of the release date.
It's going to be October 30th, but it's on pre-sale now on Amazon.com.
Okay. We will provide a link for the Amazon link for the book, and we'll also provide a link for your USA Today op-ed. Make sure you check all that out. I mean, it's a crazy time. I mean, really, I can only imagine what historians will think, 100 years from now, looking back at what's going on right now. It is tumultuous, to say the least. So thanks for joining us, Tim.